Good afternoon, Patriot pals. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day and God bless you. Let's get into the news. And to catch you up a little bit on the Kari Lake trial right now, they made their closing arguments yesterday. The judge has this hidden. He has 5 days to come to his conclusion. If Kari Lake's team met the burden of proof in proving that Maricopa County was negligent in the way they handled the election in Maricopa County, and of course, Katie Hobbs as well. And we're going to see how that plays in the next couple days. And he could make that ruling as early as today. Still, before Christmas. A lot of people think he might, and if he does, I will go to a special live coverage to cover that for you guys. But if he does not, then we'll see what happens maybe Monday, Tuesday. He will come back with that ruling. However, the Katie Hobbs lawyer made the strangest attack on voters. He attacked voters, telling them why did they wait on election day to go vote? You can mail your ballot and you can early vote it. Why did you wait for the last day to go vote? Well, me like many other voters across the country love voting on election day. I love going on election day to vote. I just feel that it's more patriotic to vote on the actual day itself, go in and vote on election day like our forefathers did in the past. That's how I feel. I know there's other people like me who feel the same way, and those voters in Arizona felt their patriotic duty was to go out on election day. So he is victim blaming the voters of Arizona. Katie Hobbs, by extension, is blaming the voters of Maricopa County for waiting to go on election day. Why did you go out? Wait, don't you know we could have issues with our tabulators and our county machines? Don't you know that could happen? They could go down. You might have to wait for hours. You check on early voting? What a stupid way to close an argument. Almost like, yeah, they understand what they did. And they don't care. They're not remorseful and they continue to plan on doing it. So we're gonna take a moment and listen to the closing argument here from the lawyer for Katie Hobbs, in this case as he blames the voters for waiting on election day to go and vote. So let's go and take a look. What we have here. Coming to us from over here on Twitter. This is from Drew Hernandez and says Kari Lake trial. Katie. Hi, Gloria. It goes on a bizarre rant during the closing argument, arguing it's political malpractice to tell voters to vote on election day. And not early vote, says Americans choose their own rulers, says you can't go and contest election in court after the results, which that is there's a whole mechanism designed for you to be able to challenge the results in court. There's a mechanism for that. It's not unconstitutional, is not unpatriotic. To do so, Democrats have been using this method for decades to challenge election results. And they always love to use the courts in order to go around the will of the people when it doesn't go their way. Prop 9 for being the biggest example coming out of California when the voters of California said no to gay marriage. What did the California legislature do? Well, they decided to go ahead and go to the court system, and get it all the way to Supreme Court, and have gay marriage forced onto the American people. They've been using the court system for decades, and that fashion. And so now that Republicans are actually using the courts in order to challenge some of these elections, they don't like it. So here's the bizarre rant from Katie Hobbs, his lawyer, in closing last night. Everyone listen to this. Political malpractice who goes out and tells their voters don't vote. One vote on day 1 of voting, early voting day 2, day 3, all the way up to day 26 of early voting. Wait to the last second. That's political malpractice. You reap what you sow? Your Honor, the burden has not been met. When people come into this courtroom without evidence, there should be a day of reckoning. And this has been happening all over the country, Your Honor, and it's got to stop, and it's got to stop right now. And the place to stop it is right here in your courtroom. Your Honor, right here in Mesa, Arizona. Says gotta stop. We got to get back to respecting the elections, because that's all we have here are different religions, different creeds, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. There's only one thing that makes us Americans. And that's we believe in choosing our own election, our own rulers, our own governors, our own mayors, our own presidents, and we do that through elections. And because of our forefathers' experience, those elections are split up the 50 different states, and all the different counties in the legislature makes the rules. The counties follow the rules. You carry out the election, and you live with the results. If you lose, you live to fight another day. You don't go into court and spew conspiracy theories and spill sour grapes. Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah. But unlike that, that's what Democrats have been doing for decades. They don't like now that Republicans are using the same mechanisms to challenge some of these races that are very close in court. They don't like it. And for him to say there was no evidence, there was plenty of evidence that was presented during this trial. And they're looking to ensure that they can disbarred the legal team of Katie have Kari Lake after this because they don't want anybody to ever challenge the election results ever again. You have to trust me, got to trust the elections, just like you trust the science, right? Anyway, and trust the experts. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you think this is going to end up. Do you think Kari Lake is going to actually win this case? Do you think it will be there's 3 options that the judge can give? He can give the election to Kari Lake, he can ask for a redo in Maricopa County. Or he can go ahead and say, yep, that happened. Sorry, that happened. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. And then, this is some big news. So what should we expect for the year 2023? Well, according to the chairman of the largest asset manager company on the planet, we're about to see the rise of a whole new world order, one that has globalist elite. Absolutely panic. We're gonna take a look at exactly what kind of new political order is rising and why the days of left-wing liberals are indeed coming to a decisive end. Tom Donilon is the chairman of BlackRock, which manages almost $10 trillion in investments, are one of the most powerful organizations within the globalist system, which is a vast interlocking mechanism of technology and telecommunications that in effect creates a single worldwide political and economic system. BlackRock has pushed vaccine passports, they push digital wallets that track and allocate carbon allowances. They've pushed central bank digital currencies. They are as globalist as globalism gets. And yet, several months back, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink turned a number of heads when he declared that the rise of the new Russia, one that had proven itself largely immune to Western sanctions, together with China and India, were representing together nothing less than the end of liberal globalization, as we've known it over the last several decades. Well, now just a couple of weeks back, BlackRock released their 2023 Global Outlook report, and in the report, the chairman Tom Donilon has announced to his investors that we are indeed entering into what he calls a new world order, not the Orwellian come actually, it's Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. It's a new world order that represents nothing less than the death of globalism itself. Here's what the report says, quote, "We've entered into a new world order. This is, in our view, the most fraught global environment since World War II, a full break from the post-Cold War era. We see geopolitical cooperation and globalization evolving into a fragmented world with competing blocs. A prime examples. The response to Russia's invasion Ukraine, Western sanctions have triggered a pursuit of economic self-sufficiency." He goes on to say, geopolitical fragmentation is likely to foster a permanent risk premium across asset classes rather than having only a fleeting effect on markets as in the past. This is the most fraught geopolitical environment since World War II in our view. The world is splitting up into competing blocs that pursue self-reliance. In other words, get ready for a far more nationalist, populist traditionalist world order that's smashing to bits the current globalist world order now. This is huge. And it's huge because the financial media tends to err on the side of honesty. You know, if you want fake news, go to journalists, right? They'll give you the woke neo-Marxist talking points all day long, these news journalists. But you see, companies that manage billions, if not trillions of dollars of assets can't do that. They have to report to their investors the truth in order to protect and grow their investments. And so the financial media is far more in touch with reality than what passes for reporters and journalists today and the news media. And so they're seeing what we've been, of course, arguing for over the last 6 years ever since this channel started. The financial media is seeing the world moving away from globalism, and is in effect tribalism. It's re-embracing culture, customs, tradition, religion, land region race, and becoming far more nationalist, far more populous. And here's the key. Regardless of what's happening here in DC, or in the bullies in Brussels or Davos, what we're finding there are forces that are far stronger, far more determinative than anything the demons in Davos for the adults in DC could come up with, and I'm going to show you exactly what those forces are. The biggest problem facing globalists today is a massive world war dynamic known as re-territorialization. Because globalization is a transnational system, it by its nature dissident beds and dislocates political power away from localized control, away from communities and districts and counties and even countries, and recalibrates a political power into the hands of a very few of centralized political and economic elite like the bullies in Brussels, right with the European Union. And so the massive backlash that we're seeing throughout the world against globalization involves nothing less than the reversal of that, where populations are re-territorializing their political power, taking their political power back, as it were, from the hands of a centralized political elite. And so in many respects, this red territorialization is the key to understanding the new post-globalist world that's emerging all around us. But the key to understanding that to what's happening in our world today. The key is that not everyone is red territorialism in the same way. It is increasingly post-globalist world. Red territorialization is being worked out in basically three ways: through what we might call neo-nationalist projects, through neo-tribalist projects, and through neo-civilizational list projects. Neo-nationalism involves a renewed sense of national sovereignty, a restoration of the nation-state against anti-nationalist forces of liberal globalism. This is what's animating the MAGA movement here in the United States, or what animated Brexit or the incredibly successful government of Viktor Orban in Hungary, but this renewed civic nationalism. It's not the only kind of nationalism that's emerging in our world. There's also what scholars call a new tribalism, or secessionist tendencies where populations want to break away from the nation-state and form their own independent republics organized around a common region, race or religion. So that's exactly what we saw on the Donbass region in eastern Ukraine and the breakaway republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. And then, on top of all that nationalism and that tribalism, we're seeing the rise of what scholars are calling civilization states, and these are states that are redrawing their boundaries around ancient civilizational spheres, like the Slavic Orthodox world of Imperial Russia, or the Sino-sphere of ancient China, or the rise of Hindu nationalist India that's also being compared to a civilization state as well under Prime Minister Modi. And so, as the executives and researchers over at BlackRock have rightly concluded, these are three different ways of re-territorializing and redrawing the global map and remaking the political world order into a far more nationalist, populist and traditional sense. And this is why, in the midst of all this absurd insanity going on in our nation today, with bumbling Biden and neocon rhinos, this is why I always remain so optimistic. The world is moving in our direction. And while our own political circumstances are so often look dire, there really is nothing the adults in DC or the bullies in Brussels can do to stop a new nationalist populace. Civilizational ISTS world order rising, and so that means it's just a matter of time before their time comes to a decisive end. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.